it has always been a protocol. Somebody comes in, what's your problem? Got a pain in my knee. Now, I'm inclined to then talk further. Okay, how long have you had that? Blah, blah, blah. You talk that through. And how are you otherwise? Have you had any problems in the past? Have you had your childhood injections? So they start thinking back of the childhood. Oh, I don't know, my mother, blah, blah, blah. Okay, before you were 10 years old, did you have any stomach problems, any breathing problems, any allergies, any fevers, and I talk through, and I also see how they respond. No, I didn't have this, yes I did have that, yes I did have that. According to yesterday, you then start to get a sense of the character of the person and how they structure their life, or whether they say, oh yes, and I have this and I have that. And to bring you all their life, they want the sympathy in terms of 5 elements, and then you work further with that. So it is not a bad thing to do that. But sometimes it's okay. I see somebody, I have little time, I just give them a consultation, just so I can meet them, no charge. They can see me, this is what I do, that's how we're going to work if you want to come. Yes, I think I can help. And then they say, and here's the pain. I say, oh, let's just do a test session. Just put the thing on, give them a very short session, and when they come back, oh, that really worked. And then they come very positive for the follow-up treatments. Then when you've decided for an area or zone to work, you can explore that zone. And there is a specific order. And it is from above to below. If you work on the spine, you start at the top, you go to the bottom. You don't go the other way. It's like rubbing a cat or a dog up the wrong way. There is the rule of going from left to right, and that relates to the spiral in the body. And there's also the rule to work from the center outwards. In a way, all that matches the law of cure. In a way, you show the body how to work with symptoms. To get them from the inside you work, you clear out. You clear out in a certain way. When you brush your stairs down, you don't start with the bottom step and then go to the next step and then the bottom step. So in the same way, you start at the bottom, at the top step, and then you go down, and you go down, and you go down. In the end, the stairs are done most efficiently. That's what you want to happen. Then manners in which questions are asked from the system. When you measure and when you work, you ask questions. And you can do that with insistence. If somebody comes for treatment, or you meet somebody, how are you? I'm fine. Okay, you sure? Yeah, I'm fine. Are you sure? Well, and then something may come out. So you can do something similar with Scanner. You can ask with greater and lesser insistence. And that is dictated by the algorithms. The manners in which one used to work, that Ravenko has designed. You can also ask questions at some point by confusing. There are, in the old system, I haven't used them very much, and I don't use them. But there is a way of working with the old system where you confuse horizontal 3s, horizontal 9s. You go boom, 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 oh there. Is it there? Boom, I think it's there. Is it there? No. And that's the sort of approach, and then suddenly the body starts to give away the next time. Yeah, okay, this is what is happening. The Avamvar and Dvar is great double var. It's the old devices, no worry to you. That is with great insistence, as I told yesterday. In a way, you force the body to give some kind of reaction. So, all that foregoing works for the scanner of old, as I call it. The automated scanner, you can still use in fashion like that, only you don't use Avamvar, double var. And the cosmotic still has to be studied in this respect. It is fairly new as far as I'm concerned, and I don't like to jump to conclusions. But I still follow these protocols and see what is happening, and see how we can work in a different way. There's certainly nothing wrong to work in this order. So I'll show protocols. This is working on the point of pain. I call that a single point approach. Now, this is already a step up. The most simple way of working is there's the pain, but the number one is you put the device on and you hold it there till it doses. But you can do that if there is a very specific point of pain. Now, I'm happy with that, even though I would like to look more in the background of the person, because as the pain is there, the body has brought the pain there. So the body knows how to relate it back to the rest of the system. Up to a point. So there's certainly no harm in doing that. So you work and you read in the order indicated. If you want to make a little protocol out of that, there are different ways of going about it, and they're all fine. You can put if the pain is there, you put the device there and you dose. And that could be the end of it, but you can then also measure 2, 3, 4 and 5 in that order, and then you dose again the highest of those. Or you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and you dose only the highest. And you will find sometimes that there's the pain, but it wants to work there. I've had, working on the shoulder, somebody had a pain in the left shoulder, and I, just out of interest, measured, and definitely the right shoulder stood out way. So I worked on the right shoulder. And the person said, "Oh, that's funny, I can feel that in my left shoulder." Reassured me and him that I was doing the right kind of work. Because sometimes a person is concerned, but that's not what the pain is, what are you doing? So you have to explain that. So that is on the point of pain, and you can do that in a different way as well, because I spoke about the symmetrical zone. So you can see that this area that we point out is symmetrical to that area from the line of the spine and the same level. Yeah? So what you can do is measure that one and measure that one, and if 2 comes up higher, you do that pattern there. And with cosmotic, certainly you can measure again. If then that one would come up high and you want to give more treatment, you can do that one as well. Or you can leave it at that as a first treatment, because you're always looking for the minimum amount of interference, as far as I'm concerned. The less you have to do, the better it is. The more natural it will be what's going to happen. And that's all you want. Now, I haven't given pictures of all the reciprocal approach. I say you consider all reciprocal positions. Reciprocal meaning left, right, up, down, front, back, inside, outside, proximal, distal, arm, leg. Somebody has a pain in the knee. A reciprocal position is working on the other knee as well. Working on the elbow, on the opposite side. And I don't know, I don't have enough medical background to substantiate that, but Ravenko certainly will, in terms of the development as a fetus, how cells divide, how we go, that there is that relationship between all those aspects. And it is also known in Chinese medicine. I've had people before with acupuncture who would have a problem with one knee and you couldn't even touch it. You then work on the other knee. And you'll still come across that. There is RSD, reflex sympathetic dystrophy. Renata came across it recently, and I've had a few people now. And something goes bad in a certain joint, and it becomes so painful and it spreads through the leg and you can't touch it. You then work on the other side. And you'll often find if you've worked on the other side that then you can touch it. There are areas at least you can touch it, and that way you can slowly approach more and more. So that's when it's useful. But you can support the treatment with working there. You can work on the inside of the lower leg and the outside of the upper arm as a total contrast. Yeah? That is reciprocal. On the back, there's a problem here. You can work there. Or you can work here and here. Or here and totally opposite there. Yeah? So the inside-outside are referred to inside of one of the leg, for example, outside the arm, or vice versa. Yeah. So it is worthwhile considering that. Reciprocal positions. As a variation, the point of pain. I call this the 9 on point of pain. I'm not always keen on the name Galena. So I call it the 9 on the point of pain. Order as indicated. So instead of doing that cross, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can do 1 and read and dose, and then you compare 2 and 3. They're all variations on a similar pattern. to make the most of what you're reading. And if you want to do little, you treat the point of pain. If you want to extend on it and do more and more, in a way it's greater insistence to the body, then you do the 9. So you treat that point, you dose. Then you compare 2 and 3, and you dose the highest of those 2. 4 and 5, dose the highest. 6 and 7, dose the highest. 8 and 9, and dose the highest. Yeah? And if you want to do less, there's nothing wrong in reading all the way through and dosing only 1. So instead of the cross you have 8 around it, and you may find that it's not in the cross that one or one of those needs the second treatment. It's not uncommon at all that you're not quite on this point of pain where you find you need to treat. Yeah. So what I also do myself, and this is not in here, somebody comes with a shoulder pain there, I will measure along certain lines, just from top to bottom. Make 3 lines because of the width of the device, and then go from outside to inside. The back is more the outside, this is more the inside. And then go down here, go down there, and treat the highest. Yeah? And that is not always on the point of pain. But often people say, oh, I can feel that there. And sometimes, most of the time, you'll find that the point of pain stands out. You say, oh, I find this the real spot. Oh yeah, that's it. Which also gives reassurance. And it does pick up the area that it needs to treat. No doubt. And now we come to the most important one. Ta-da! The 3 pathways. And why that one is important to me, you'll realize if you were here yesterday, when you go over the pathways there and there, you contact all of the system, the whole functioning of the whole system, because in terms of Chinese medicine, and that's where I got it from, that's what I went to introduce into Scanner, you then work on the whole system. Of course, Ravenko knew that when he divided this as the basic, most general zone. And it is very good that when you're working, certainly with a person with chronic disease, that as you are working locally, you want to make sure not only that all of the rest of the system stays nicely in balance, you also want to be sure that it builds up in health, that you prevent disease. There's a person in front of you, they have a pain in their elbow, and I believe that it is not good enough as a practitioner who knows better that you just treat the elbow and say, okay, go on your way and leave me the dosh, because there is a person there, and if you see that, well, it wants to work on the heart, perhaps there is a heart problem, without knowing what it is, you work on it till it resolves. I think that's an obligation as a practitioner. So you measure first down the vertebral pathway, the center line, and you start there. You leave out C7, the vertebra cervical 7. You start there, and then step by step by step by step you measure till you are right at the coccyx, and then you go to 11 and 12. Most of the time you'll have space for only one area. And because the electrodes are so large, Dr. Arena, I find that sometimes it's difficult, because the neck can be like that, and it's very difficult, so the contact area you have is small. And it is a problem because there is a bit of a variety. Yeah, different spaces. It does switch itself on quickly, doesn't it? So sensitive. Somebody by mistake put it once on a bit of a chicken wrap, I believe, and it started working. How can that be? Said the Karasev. What is it doing? What does it think it's treating? And Karasev said, well, it found some organic tissue and it's trying to work with that, but it's obviously not getting very far. Which was funny. So that's how you measure. First down there, and then you go to the left and you do the same there and there, and then you go to the right and you do the same there and there. These are called the paravertebrals. I have understood that it is Karasev's opinion that you do not have to do the 6 points when you do the 3 pathways. That he sees, and that is not explained by Ravenko, that the 3 pathways, or the 6 points, activate the 3 pathways. so that the whole thing becomes more effective. But he says that it is not really necessary, particularly not when you're using Cosmotic. So you can then go about it in different ways. If you want to do a very light treatment, you measure all three. You make notes of the highest value. I do that by putting a little line. If I go one value, hey, that's much higher, I put a little line there. And then I know exactly where to go back, because you want to go back to the same position, otherwise you create confusion. So you measure them all, and then you treat the one spot. If you want to up the treatment...
Did you just say you treat the one spot?
Yeah, then you treat the one spot. So you measure all three pathways, and then you treat the highest reading. That's the most basic way of working. The next step up, and we can start to name them if you like, is you treat the vertebra and you dose the highest. Then you treat the left paravertebral and you dose the highest, and then the right one and you dose the highest. So you've given 3 doses.
You're not doing it all the way down, you're speaking the...
All the way down. You measure the whole thing first. So you measure, high value, little line, measure, higher value, again a line, measure, okay, that was the highest, that's why I dose now. Then you go to the left one.
Dividing into sections?
I don't divide it into sections, because the effect is, and I'll show you later if there is time, I think, that once you've pressed and measured, and you take it away, you can see the indications on the skin. I've never missed it. I've always seen the indication. So I see this electrode, size of electrode, and then you do the next one. And you want to make the space in between as little as possible without overlapping.
Okay, so you along the spinuses, you measure them all the way down from T1 to coccyx.
Yeah.
Then you find out which one is the highest.
Then you go to the neck, and then you find out which one is the highest.
And then go, so the lower
So you
one, are you going to do one treatment there from C7 to coccyx, or are you going to do from the whole spine, from
You measure all 12, as they are named 12 here. You don't always get to there. So you measure them all there, and then you dose the highest of what you found all the way there.
And then you do the same for the left.
And then the same for the left, and then the same for the right. You can, if you want to go further from there, once you've done that, measure again. I regularly do that. When I've seen somebody a few times, I then measure again, measure all of them. So say I've given a dose on this one. A dose is that you keep it on, did it give you a signal, it's done. And then on that one, and then on that one. And then I measure that all the way through, measure that one, and give one dose on the one left that's highest. And sometimes, after having treated once, there is suddenly a different one, sometimes it's the same, a different one that really stands out. When that happens, I know something good has happened, because the body is giving a real signal, there it's one to work, and then I dose that one. And I know that's going to be a good treatment. I find that they all are fairly equal. There's one that stands out a bit, and then I just leave it. I'm not going to respond to that. I want to have a real indication for the second one that something is thrown up. Otherwise I let the body get on with it.
And when you worked with that Lyme's case, you said one is really...
With the Lyme case, one came up in terms of it took a long time to dose.
Okay.
And after the 45 minutes, I didn't do another one. And it's because I am a practitioner and I book people for an hour.
Sure.
Which is space enough, but at the same time, one is limited.
So
say it again.
If you're on that point for 45 minutes, are you talking to him while that is happening? What?
I put my finger on and I go around the guys, woo.
Entertainment is the key.
It's no. There's a shamanism. This is more serious. This is serious.
Do you talk to patients at that time? Because some people would think, well...
I sometimes talk, I sometimes not. It depends on the person and what's happening. I ask regularly, can you feel the signal? I regularly draw their attention to the spot I'm working on. Because that just gives that little bit extra. It's not a necessity, but it does help. And I would suggest to use every third or fourth session the 3 pathways. just to make sure that everything stays in balance and that general health is improving as well, because it does do that, no doubt.
The only, Rob doesn't do fusion, but when we do add the laser now to the heart or other areas, it does dose much quicker. So just as a sidelight, when you're doing fusion, like I know you'll be doing, we don't tend to have the 45-minute, but if it happens, it's incredible. So it's all good.
David, do me a deal on the laser.
Oh, got it.
And because I've been thinking about that, because there are certain acupuncture areas I know from Chinese medicine I don't easily use, but that have a very general effect. Mm-hmm. And if you combine that with doing scanner in one spot and the person holds that in a totally different area, I think that may be very interesting. I would love to experiment.
So you will be our research arm in Canterbury for that. Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. Yeah, I can think of interesting areas, and not to be joking, but the area underneath.
Under the. Say that again.
The area underneath.
The prostate one
Yeah, yeah. There is a accumulation of a particular type of energy. The other one is here, really, or at the top of the head. But those are interesting areas. And what you do is people very easily, oh, your energy is blah, 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 you go to a chakra.
Right.
Yeah?
But
now,
boy, the root one that you're talking on the perineum,
yeah.
Boy, we're talking gold when that gets happened. So.
Were you talking what?
When you were just saying you would love to do that point, is that the point near the perineum?
Yeah.
Okay. Miracles happen when that happens.
Okay.
So you're
but there are certain areas that are really interesting to use in combination. Yeah. So use it every third or fourth session would be my advice. Not all the time. So this is what I just explained about how to work on the three pathways and how you can sort of make the treatment stronger by doing more on it or less on it.
May I ask a question? Yesterday you talked about the 5 pathways. When and how often would you incorporate that instead of using just the 3?
5 pathways. My advice is to work on the 3 pathways first. Then include the extra 2 outer paravertebral pathways, first left and right, avoiding the neck. I would do that when I see reason to do that, which means that either the treatments are progressing but not on a deep enough level, which doesn't easily happen. Usually it's okay. Or when the person is obviously still struggling with emotional issue, overthinking, mind doesn't stop, that kind of thing, or still getting into emotional trends as being too angry too easily or whatever. I would then consider doing those. And as I explained yesterday, you then approach what is called the outer bladder line in Chinese medicine. And the points there relate to the organs, organ functions, the functional aspect in the system, fairly directly, but more the emotional, mental, and sometimes spiritual side, quite deep levels. Names like Spirit Hall and Whale of Grief and all that relate to that. But I would advise not to go for those points, but just measure, because the scanner is a wonderful device to measure that. And then see, okay, there's an area there. So the way you find those, I'll do that now, but we'll come back to it later. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind being here some evening if there is time to do that and explain more about it. Is that, as we said yesterday, you have a person, and then you have the shoulder blades. Shoulder blades have a spine. This is an ideal position. When you feel the spine, and it is in that position that this is almost vertical, then you can be sure that from there, this is between 3 and 4. And then you can count up, and then you can say that's 1, and that is C7, and that is to be avoided. Usually it's a bit lower. Sorry. Bad drawing.
Why do you avoid C7?
I don't know why Karasev avoids it, but it is avoided. I know from Chinese medicine that there is an accumulation. Dr. Arena called it a fuse box, and that's a real good way of putting it. There's a real accumulation of meridians. In Chinese medicine, it's called great hammer, the point. And that is, if somebody's not responding, you use that point and it gives a bit of a whack to the system, like when you shake something and then it frees up. Yeah, it has other meanings as well. You do other things with it as well. But I think that if you were to measure that and work there, that you interfere with all the other areas.
Has there been any work done on that?
Sorry?
Has there been any research maybe done with that to see?
Well, it comes back. There is another protocol I'm going to talk about later, which has to do with gynecological things, where you use the suprasternal notch and that spot as well. Yeah.
So there are many, I don't want to say many, there are times, like yesterday I did C7 on someone who was profound. And this is when the practice occurs where you're learning about it. But when you're doing these 3 and 5 pathways, the 7 is not an emphasis at all.
Yeah, it's in this context that you avoid that.
Don't go there point. And understand from scalar technology that there's other reasons why that was with that technology, which is changing. Some of us are now going into realms of what wasn't right before, and we're getting phenomenal results. But again, we're really good practice. We're feeling it. There's other ways we're testing it.
Thanks. So to find these pathways, this is the spine, and right next to the edge of the scapula is the 4th and 5th, are the 4th and 5th pathways. There you are. Then right in between, halfway, is the paravertebral one uses in the 3 pathways. That's how I do it. Ravenko says, there's the spine, and there's your electrode, and then you measure one, and there you go, that distance of 1 electrode behind. I say that's nonsense, because on a baby, that is too far, and on a bloke, that is not far enough. This is number 1, that's the spine. This is number 3, paravertebral. That is number 5, paravertebral. This is the edge of the scapula. Here is the electrode next to the edge of the scapula. Yeah? For some people it will be, for some people not. For some people there's a lot of space, but sometimes you'll be very close. But even though you're close, you haven't touched what is called the outer bladder line if you don't do this. Yeah? If you're near it, you may have affected it, there may be no need to do it. But at times it is really nice to do that. This is called the color zone. And again, it is a general zone worked out by Karasev, and I think that's really nice. He's worked out a variety of zones that keep the whole system in balance. So you treat specific areas, but you add to that other areas to keep everything in balance. Now the 3 pathways, of course, is right at the core of it, is right at the center. But a zone like the collar zone is good as well, and it works on the shoulders. In the traditions of Ravenko, one would say, if somebody has a headache, you choose that zone, and you can do that. I'm more inclined, as I explained all yesterday, to look at the person and look at maybe the root factor, etc., or the key factor, and work with that if you can. But you can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. It is a balanced zone. All these zones are very balanced, very nice to work with. And what you do is the collar zone, first you work over this area here on the shoulder, and you indicate where C7 is. That's where you take a line, but you don't avoid it. You avoid the center, and this is not very well pictured, but you really avoid the center. I should have done that better, I apologize.
Would you avoid the center?
Yeah, you avoid the vertebrae. You go next to the vertebrae, and I haven't made that very clear, I now realize. So everybody, sure, avoid the vertebrae in the center. Just be on the left of it and on the right of it. The first electrode...
Okay, that's just in this case.
Just in this case.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
in doing the process called the color zone, we just don't do the central.
Yeah, in this particular algorithm. So then you start.
It's an algorithm?
It's called algorithms.
Yeah.
The order in which you do something and the manner in which you do it.
Thank you.
So first you go to the left and then to the right, as explained before, and your first electrode goes in the neck just above C71 line, and then the second one, third one, and you work your way through like that till that's the last one, and you dose the highest. Order collar zone, order shoulders, forehead, kidney projections, order within as indicated by those numbers. Always first left then right from the viewer's point, because it's about the circle. Right? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh, I see. You're putting another template on that.
We're not really seeing the two very well. So
There is what 2 there. We are not there yet. We are here. We are working on the shoulder at the moment.
Okay.
There is no 2 indicated there. I understand that people. I think that people know that between 1 and 3 comes 2.
Oh, that's 3 there.
That's what I meant. That's how I meant to put it.
What are the 2 numbers on this side? Like 3?
9 and 9. So you first start on the left. I'm still on the left on the shoulder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? You find the highest on the left, you dose that. Then you go to the right. And then you go from the center outwards.
Yeah, can I just show simply on you quickly how where steps are? It goes like this. 1, 2, 3.
You're
Okay.
on the spine now.
No, but I understand, but they're not. You're not on the spine. You are on the left of the spine.
Okay.
But it's first step, second step, third step. Then you go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So that's where the figure 9 came from on the screen. And then you're doing the same thing on the right. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And
yeah, order within as indicated, and I meant those numbers.
Do all on the left, then all on the right.
That's right. All on the left first, you dose. Then you go all on the right and you dose. That done, you then go to the forehead. Order 1 shoulders, 2 forehead, 3 kidney projections. That's the forehead. Standing in front of it, for the viewer, left first. So you read number 1, you read number 2, you dose the highest. If it is a big forehead and there's a lot of space, you can take a third one. Then you go to right for the viewer. 1, 2, or 3, dose the highest.
And you said this was a Karasov process, not a Revenko.
No. Did I? I do apologize. It's Revenko. All of these protocols are Revenko. Classic Russian protocols. It's called the classic Russian approach because there are other people who say, oh, I know a better way and I do it this way. Like myself, I say, I know another way that may be good, and that is, again, based on Chinese medicine, 5 elements. So having done the forehead and having dosed on each side, you then go to the kidney projections. And you find the kidney projections by drawing a line horizontal on the level between T12 and L1. There it is. And a line down from the edge of the scapula, and where they cross, you have the kidney projection. You first read the left one, then you read the right one, 1 and 2, and then you dose the highest of those 2. What zone? They are all part of what is called the collar zone. They're all part of it. And even though that is more on the collar, the other ones are there to make sure that the zone is a complete zone that will keep everything in balance. And it's based on Revenko's knowledge of the nervous system He is a neurologist, and he's a very good practitioner. And a very bright. So all that together makes the color zone, and that is a general zone. It keeps everything in balance. So if somebody comes with shoulder problems or problems you think that may fall into that category a bit more, either locally, it is used for migraines, for head problems, for neck problems. Irina, Dr. Irina, would you give a list of things when it is used? How would you indicate when would you use this?
Color zone?
Yeah?
The color zone is a color zone is a zone of general regulation as well as the three pathways. But three pathways we consider the more basic technique. So three pathways are good for anything and everything as a general regulation of the system, general shaking of the system, and revealing where you go next. So it's helping the system to better understand itself. The color zone you can use also for everything and anything, but in particular in the situation where which are connected to immune system disorders, stress-related disorders, and believe it or not, gynecological and reproductive system situation.
Right.
Because color zone, first of all, connects, you have the maximum opposite symmetry from your reproductive zone to the neck and shoulders. So it's maximum opposite symmetry and influencing neck and shoulders. You at the same time influencing reproductive area, and consider that you are also influencing adrenals. You are balancing the sympathetic parasympathetic imbalance, which most of us do have. Most of us are sympathetically dominant. So you need to do that. Now, for immune system disorders, you see that the neck and shoulders and the neck area are the most powerful areas to balance the immune system. So that's for that. And of course, stress, that's where stress sits.
Yeah.
So this is, and of course, it's the most common use of this zone, but it doesn't mean that the only use. You can use it in any situation when you need to address the entire system. Does that?
Thank you.
No.
So now you know why we all respect Dr. Irina. So there's the gyno or the palm zone, as it's called. You understand why it's called the gyno zone because you work just above the pubic bone. It's also called palm zone because the size of the area you work relates to the size of the palm of the person you're treating. If they put their palm there, then that indicates the size of the area you're working. And on the front, that area there is just above the pubic bone, on the edge of it. And then you work on the other side on the same level on the back. Then there is a suprasternal notch, and there is C7. And the order in which you go first above the pubic bone, then you go to the sacrum area, then to the suprasternal notch, and then to C7. Now you can do this, and the order in which you measure within the zone, again, is meant as the first position, second position, third and fourth position to measure, left to right, the same on the back. Then you measure, you compare between the suprasternal notch and C7. There are two ways. As one, if you want to do it very lightly, you compare the front and the back on the level of just above the pubic bone, and you dose one on either the front or the left. But I virtually always dose one in the front and one in the back. And then, but there's nothing wrong with doing it the other way, and it makes it a little lighter in treatment. And then I compare between the suprasternal notch and C7, and I dose one of the highest one of those two. Very good, of course, as the name suggests, for gynecological problems. I saw a lady and she had fibroids, and because the scanner had worked fantastically for her whiplash, acupuncture got it to 95% better. Never more than that. When the scanner came along, we tried it, 100% gone. She was sold. She felt so good in herself. Her husband said jokingly, "You won't treat her too often, will you?" Because she became herself and she spoke out. It's great. And so when she had fibroids, she wanted a scanner. So this was one of the protocols we did. We had 7 sessions over 2 months, and the fibroids had disappeared. 2 doctors told she was like being 13 weeks pregnant. It was like being 13 weeks pregnant according to the size of the fibroids. And they completely disappeared, which was great. And she always feels good. Once in a while she'll ring, and she has a couple of sessions. I sometimes let people dictate the way we work. If that works well, that's fine. After all, some people have good gut feelings, and I'm happy to work with that first. I'm not in favor of overriding people's judgment at all. I would like to see people be free and be able to judge for themselves. So that's the gyno zone. And then there is another general zone, which is the abdomen zone. The umbilicus is right in the center. You can then divide the abdomen into 4 quarters. And then you work at the top on the left, because you go from above to below, first left to right, above to below. So you work on the top here. And you start measuring left top, second one below there, 3, 4, and so through, in this case 8. You dose the highest, and then you go to the one below. As above to below, in my opinion, comes first, like on the 3 pathways, above to below, left to right. So you measure there, you dose 1, you dose 1 there, and you dose 1 there. Sorry, in this case we circle a circle. You can do variations. The abdomen is a very nice place to do variations. Not on the spine. Okay, so the abdomen is a fantastic place to play around. But if you want to play around, you can use that order. Above, below. So you can do the left top, the left bottom, the right top, the right bottom. But you can also circle. So you do the left top, left bottom, right top. It's a variation. And you start a circle that way. I think the most basic is top, bottom, top, bottom.
But if you're going to circle, do you want to go that way?
I go that way. Would there be a reason to go the other way?
I usually do clockwise.
You do clockwise?
I usually do, but that's just me.
I usually do anti-clockwise. There could possibly be, but what Dr. Davis was saying about sedating and tonifying, I would suggest to forget those terms. Because if you use those terms, you have to think about it, and then you have to think, and then you have to think, when do I tonify, when do I sedate, and you're going to make mistakes. Because you see somebody who's seemingly right up there, and you read their pulses, as one does in Chinese medicine, and the energy is way down. And you see people who are very quiet and very like that, and the energy is right up, and the whole system is stuck. But it doesn't show in that fullness, it shows it in being depleted, seemingly. So you're going to make the wrong decision, so I'd like to leave those terms absolutely out of it. It's automated. It does what it needs to do in that sense, and that is great. That is lovely. Don't have to think about it. For an old acupuncturist who has used to use his mind all the time, what do I do, what do I do, am I doing the right thing, could I be doing better, I can just do.